welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Bree. Today's video we're going to be going through my R Fantasy bingo board. I have never done an R Fantasy bingo. It comes out every year in April on Reddit and there are different prompts, and I'll put the bingo board up here so you can see. But you just go through and you do all of the different prompts, and then there's also a hard mode which gives like more depth to the different squares. I'm not going to be attempting hard mode. I have never done this, for one, and two, I'm still getting back in my fantasy era, and so I don't really want to go to hard mode just yet. So my recommendations for this video, I'm going to be choosing what I will read for my TBR and then giving you some recommendations. But if you do this and you want to do hard mode, just know that I didn't pick my recommendations if they hit hard mode or not. I just did it for the easy mode, so they might not all work if you're going to do hard mode. But I'm excited. I like a good TBR. I'm such a mood reader that I probably won't read half the picks for what I say I'm going to, but I just think it's fun, and I hopefully will get to some of these books. It's kind of making me think about some books that have been on my TBR for a while that I haven't picked up. So let's just get into the first prompt. First one we have is called Knights and Paladins, and this is where one of the main protagonists is a knight or a paladin. And for that, I'm going to be reading Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. I've been meaning to pick this up for a really long time. It's a series of 3 books that are following different paladins in this world. So this is a romance between like a fugitive and a paladin. I really want to get into the series. I've been meaning to pick it up for forever. Now, I also could read The Knight and the Moth because people have been saying that contains a knight. Duh, it's in the title. And that's by Rachel Gillig. That hasn't come out yet, but I did read One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns and I really liked it. So I think I'm going to pick this one up too. So that one would also fit. And I don't really have any other recs for you, so I'm just going to leave those as recs. I'm sure I've read books with knights in them, but I just can't think of them right now. I would think The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson could probably count for knights because they do have like knighthood almost. They're like leveling up different tiers of knighthood, so I would count that. But you can always go to the subreddit too. They have recommendations and people will tell you if like it counts or not. But that's what I have for Knights and Paladins. Next square we have is Hidden Gem, and this is a book with under 1,000 ratings on Goodreads. So for me, I'm going to be picking up Asiri and the Amaru by Natalia Hernandez. This is a cozy fantasy romance that is following a woman who has magical powers where she can like speak to animals, I'm pretty sure. And she has to leave her hometown because people are figuring out that she can do this. And then she meets with a guy who helps like take care of animals. And they are trying to find a legendary, I don't know what it's called, Amaru. That's in the title. They're trying to find a legendary Amaru and like save it and things, and it's supposed to be really cozy and cute, and I've meant to get to it for a long time and I just haven't picked it up yet, so very excited to get to this. This has, at the time I'm talking about it, 739 ratings on Goodreads, so that will definitely count. It's under 1,000. And then I did check, and this recommendation is The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. I really liked this when I read it. It's a self-pub book that is kind of, what do you call it, steampunk-y, where we have a magic that is forbidden, and one day our main character, he stumbles upon this magic as he's trying to steal it, a magical object, and then it propels him into this other world where he is involved with people who have done some bad things that they are being hunted for. We start to see him have to question what he thought he knew about these people. I don't remember how many it has on Goodreads. I'll put the ratings up here, but it definitely was under 1,000, and I do think it's a really good book, and I can't wait to get to the second one. It's a series as well, so I'd highly recommend if you're looking for a recommendation. Next we have Published in the 80s, and this one is hard for me because I don't read a lot of fantasy from that time period. So I ended up looking at the list for this, and someone mentioned Kiki's Delivery Service was then, and I actually recently got it on my Kobo, so I'm very excited because I really love Studio Ghibli type stories, and I love Howl's Moving Castle, and I've always meant to read Kiki's Delivery Service, and I used to love the movie when I was younger, so I will be reading that, and that will be my recommendation as well. I don't really have other ones. That's my recommendation. Hopefully it's good because I haven't read it yet. The next word is high fashion. It can either be that the main character works with like fibers and textures, or it can be that fashion is a big part of the focus of this society. And I think I interpreted more the character works with fashion, but I didn't know what to read for myself. So I went to the Reddit subreddit, and it said that A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross would count for this, which I found very interesting. So I'm not sure where they're getting that, but all I know is that there's girls that are going missing on this island, and a character, Jack, comes back to try to figure out what's going on with them. But I'm not sure in what capacity this deals with textiles and fibers. So if you also have another recommendation in case this one doesn't work out, because I only saw it mentioned once, but I was trying to pick books that are on my TBR, I would love to know if you know if this would fit or if you have another recommendation. But for you, for recommendations, I have This Woven Kingdom by Tahira Mafi. This definitely deals with that because the main character, she works as a seamstress on the side, as also she's a maid, and she is the long lost heir to the Jin throne, and then one day she meets the prince, who he believes she's a spy, so he starts trying to figure her out, and as he does that, it unravels a lot of events where she is now having to go on the run because people are after her. So you could start with this, and that would count for that square. And then finally, this one, you kind of should read Half a Soul first, but you could just read this one on its own because it gives you a sprinkle of the characters from the first one, but like nothing that I think would really spoil anything in the first. In this, we have a seamstress or a maid who she is working at a house where she's treated very poorly, and she stitches a lot of clothing together, and it's talking a lot about her time as a maid and the problems she faces, but she also meets someone, and there is a bit of a romance where she has promised to stitch 10,000 stitches into this Fae man's cloak, and if she does, she gets one wish, and he will like help her with that. So very cute. I really liked this one. I didn't love it as much as Half a Soul, but I do think the whole series had really good vibes. So the next one is called Down with the System, and it revolves around the plot having to do with disrupting a system. I feel like there's so many books out there that deal with this, but I was having a hard time coming up with one on my shelves, and I know that's kind of crazy because I know that I have more, but I was asking my husband. He said that I could use The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett for this. All I know is it's a mystery that's revolving around flowers, or not flowers, but like vines coming out of someone's chest after they've been murdered, and it's kind of Sherlock and Holmes-esque. But he said he can't tell me why, but he said it does count for Down with the System. So I will be trying to count this, but I could also count probably many more books because I feel like that's a very prominent theme in a lot of fantasy books. Now, I don't know if I ever added, but this can count for sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. So I know I'm leaning more fantasy in this because I do feel like the squares count a little more towards fantasy, but there are some horror books that can work for this as well. But my recommendations are Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wang. This is dealing with a woman who is the first female mage, and she starts to learn about what's going on behind closed doors and how her power and privilege has been used to harm people in ways that she never understood, and she has to try to disrupt the system. And it's very good. I highly recommend. So the next one I have is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is like pre-Columbian Americas inspired. Reason why I think it counts for Down with the System is that we're following a lot of different groups who want different things from their government. So they have different motives and wants for the system. So we have people who are in power right now who are like priests and stuff, and then we have a other party that believes they have the person who's going to put an end to their reign and is like kind of the next savior. And then we have a couple other people who are involved in different ways, and so I do really think that this would count towards Down with the System because we have different people working for different motives to bring down what they believe are corrupt systems. And then we have The Will of the Many by James Islington. Our main character, Viz, is working to infiltrate a school and take down a corrupt government. And he's trying to get as much information as he can so that he can take them down from the inside. And within the power structures as well, there's different things happening. And so this definitely would count for Down with the System. And I would highly recommend. All of those are ones I'd highly recommend. The next square is called Impossible Places, and it's supposed to be somewhere that could break a physicist. So it's supposed to defy like the rules of physics. And I don't know why, but this was recommended in the subreddit, so I'm just gonna trust it. I have heard it's a really weird book, and I think it's labyrinth-esque. I've been trying so hard not to spoil myself for this book, and I put it on my self-destruct books for this year because I want to get to it. And that's all I need to know, that it will fit this square. And that's all I want to know about this book, so I'm going to say Pure Nessie is on the list for that. And then I've been told The Book That Wouldn't Burn has been listed a bunch of times as well because it deals with a library, I think, but it's also got like magical things happening in it. And I've just had really good vibes from it, so I picked it up in hopes that I will get to it because I do like Magical Library. So those are my two that I have that I could possibly read for this square. And then for recommendations, I actually have two horror books. The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. This is a horror that we follow a woman who finds like this door or like portal to another world, and it's very strange, and her friend go and explore it, and it just gets really weird, and it doesn't make sense, and it's definitely like otherworldly. The thing about what makes it so creepy is just that this place like doesn't follow natural rules. There's like a lot of like bunkers, but you don't know why, and they keep finding weird things, and it was very creepy. But it also has like some humor to it, so if you like that as well, it could work for you. Or if you're someone who's kind of newer to horror, I think it could work. And then I have We Used to Live Here by Marcus Clearier. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, I'm sorry. And this is following a woman who one day people come to their house and her partner is out, and so she feels like she has to let them in because they ask if they can come take a tour, and she does, and then things start getting really weird. But the reason why I would count this is that it does feel more like the house itself has something weird going on, and it really defies logic, and you don't really know what's happening, and things are very confusing and feel up and down, and parts of the house can change. So that's why I would count this as well. The next square is a book in parts, which I'm not going to pick a book for this square. I'm just going to decide which one I want to give it to at the end of the year, because I typically read books that have parts in it quite often. But I do have a recommendation for you, and that is Serpent in the Wings of Night. I'm currently reading this, so that's how I know. It has a trial, and at different parts of the trial it'll tell you different parts, so there's been multiple parts throughout the book, so this could definitely count. This is a story of a woman who was taken when she was a young girl and brought to this vampire castle, and she's the only human around, and she's trained to be able to defend herself, and she's entered into a tournament that happens every like 100 or 1,000 years. I can't remember the exact time. She is fighting against other vampires, and at the end, if she wins, she will get a prize, like a ability from the goddess. And along the way, she meets a vampire that makes her question things, and there's a romance, and I'm really liking it. So this would definitely count. I feel like the Book of the Will of the Many would count. I'm gonna like recommend that a million times. Let's see. Yeah, there's literally part 1. I do know that like The Way of Kings would work for this as well. Yeah, I feel like many fantasy books will count for this. Okay, so the next one we have is Gods and Pantheons, and it just has to do with books that feature divine beings. So for that, I have Immortal by Sue Lynn Tan. This is her newest book, and I honestly don't know much about it except for it's a standalone romantic fantasy. I know they pledged to serve the immortals, so I picked it up because I really liked Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and so this will definitely work for that square. And a lot of it is based off of mythology, so specifically Chinese mythology, and I'm excited. I can't wait to get into it because I really liked her writing. It was very whimsical. Oh, and look, it would count for parts. So if you need another recommendation, there you go. So my recommendations for you are Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. And this also deals with Chinese mythology, and we're following a young woman who is the daughter of the moon goddess, and her mom is being charged with things that she shouldn't be, and so she is trying to prove herself as a warrior so that she can save her mother. And there's some trials in here too. There's a bit of a romance as well, and I just really like the fantastical, whimsical nature of the story. I really enjoyed it. I think it was fun. It's a YA, I think, technically, or new adult. Then I also have The Dead Cattails Assassins by P. Djeli Clark. I really like P. Djeli Clark's writing. And in this one, we're following a woman who is a dead cattail assassin, which means they go and they assassinate different people. And one day she is sent to assassinate someone, and instead she takes them with her. And there's some weird things that start happening, but it definitely does involve gods, and the way that the world works also heavily incorporates gods, and so we do see characters that are gods as well in this. So I would highly recommend. It's a very fun time. It's a very short novella, but it packs a lot in, and I had a lot of fun with it. So that would be my other recommendation to you. The next one I have is Last Book in a Series, and I have a couple options for it. I don't think I'm going to give you recommendations just because I don't know what series you have to catch up on, but these ones are the ones that I will use potentially for this square. So the first I have is The Vengeful Dead by Darcy Coates. This is a horror series that feels more paranormal. It's dealing with a woman who wakes up one day and she has no memories, and she finds she's being chased by these people, and she also finds out that she can talk to the dead. This last installment of it, we're going to wrap up the whole arc of what's happening here, and I'm very excited. It's the 5th book in the series, and I really like it. It's really fun. And then I also have Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. This will be the final book in the series. Don't want it to be over, so I've been putting it off. And it's like one of those books that I'm just know I'm going to love, but I don't want it to be done, so I just keep delaying and delaying and delaying it. But I could potentially count this for that square. This is the last in the Emily Wilde, which is dealing with Emily Wilde, who studies fairies, and she's writing a book about fairies. And then she also teams up with her colleague, Wendell, who is very different from her, and they start to get involved in some fairy shenanigans and have to figure out what they're going to do. And it's really fun. It also would work for a different square, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then I also have The Bone Shard War by Andrea Stewart. I read the first 2, so I could choose this one and finish up the trilogy. This is about a world where they use bones to make constructs which are fueled by magic, and as the bones are used, the people get sicker and die because of the magic that it takes to power these constructs, and they're from bones of citizens, and everyone has to give it up. We're following the Emperor's daughter, and then also a smuggler who smuggles people away so that they don't give up their bone shard. And then we have some other characters that are also involved as well. And it's a very like political type story, and this is the 3rd and final book, so I hope to finish it soon. Next we have a book club or read-along book. So this has to be a book that was involved in a book club for the Our Fantasy Bingo. So I perused the list because it can be from any of the years. There was a lot to choose from, so you could definitely find a book. But these are the 3 I chose just from the list. So I have this, which I originally picked up for my husband, and it's intimidating, so I don't know if I'll actually choose this one, but it's The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. All I know is literally that it's a fantasy book that people rave about, and it's called The Dandelion Dynasty, and this is the first one. I know some people have recommended it, so I think I'm gonna like it. I want to say it's like historical fantasy-esque, and it sounds really good, but I'm intimidated. But I've been kind of figuring out what I like, so hopefully I like this. We shall see. And then I have Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. This is having to do with a man who goes and brings his wife, and they're newly married, as their honeymoon. They go to the Tower of Babel, and the tower has different things that happen in each one. It's kind of like a labyrinth in itself. I guess this could count for the other square, the Impossible Places, as well. But he loses his wife, and he has to find her, and he's traveling through this tower. I think I want to pick this up because I would like to get to this trilogy, and I've heard good things, and I've heard it's kind of wacky and silly, and I've also read The Hexologist by him and really liked it, so I think I could really like this. But I have some recommendations for you. They had Daughter of the Moon Goddess, so I won't go over this again, but this would count for that square. And then we also have A Master of Jinn by P. Djeli Clark. This one is his full-length book, and we're following a detective who works in like the magical detective department, so she hunts like monsters and things like that, and she is sent to solve a murder where these men are all killed, and it's set in Cairo. She's trying to find out why. It was a bunch of like white men who are part of like this cult seeming, and she wants to find out why they all died mysteriously, and things start to go horribly wrong, and it was very good. I would highly recommend. So the next one is Parent Protagonist, so it's where the main character has a child or is a parent, and for what I'm gonna read is Sword of Kaigen by Emma Wang. I don't own it, but I read Blood Over Brighthaven and really loved it, and so this one is following, I know, a woman who, she used to be like a warrior, but she got out of it, but then her son, I believe, starts to fight as well in the war, and she takes up her arms again and has to get involved in the war. And I think I've heard it's a lot about a son and mother like dynamic, so I'm very interested in it, and I've heard just amazing reviews. I think it's gonna really hurt me because Blood Over Brighthaven hurt me a lot, but that would definitely count for that square. But then for recommendation, I also have Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. This is a really underrated mythology type retelling. We're following Kaikeyi, who is a woman who is married to this emperor. Is that what they call it? But she goes to live at the palace, and she is just trying to figure out how she can still keep her own independence in her voice and have women's voices heard more. And it's about her like journey through motherhood as well, and what she will do to save her son. There's multiple wives as well. While she only has her own child, there's other children as well that she cares about, and she's trying to like balance that dynamic as well. And it's just very good. It's definitely a lot about motherhood, but it's also just about women and their fight for independence and doing what you feel is right for your family even when others question it. I think it's a super underrated book. So the next section we have is epistolary, so it has to feature predominantly like messages, letters, journal entries, etc. So I have a couple options, and I think for me the one that I have that I'm going to use that I was told could work based on the subreddit is, I don't own it yet, but it's Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I have had never a 5-star yet with Stephen Graham Jones, but I've had 3s and 4s, so I'm very hopeful for this one because it's historical horror, which he hasn't really done before. I believe there's vampire. I could be wrong about that, but it really hooked me, the fact that it was going to be a historical horror, and I'm going to use it for this spot, but I don't know really anything about it. I like going into a lot of books not knowing a lot about them, just based on vibes, so it works for me, so I'm not going to question it. But for you, for epistolary, here are the options I have. This one is like my first sci-fi rec, I think, and that is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amar El-Motar. This is following different women who work on different sides of this time war, and they start writing love letters to each other through different means, so like different time loops, different ways. It's very interesting, like the different ways that they communicate with each other, and I really love it. It reads really fast because it's all like letters to each other, and each author like wrote different people, so I think it was really well done, really worth it, and definitely worth the hype. So that would count for letters. Then we have this one, which you've probably seen before, A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is written in letters to Dracula, though he is never named, and it's about Constanta's story and how she came to realize she was in an abusive relationship with Dracula and what happened from there. I think this one is also definitely worth the hype. And then I said this earlier that this would count, but we have Emily Wilde's. This is the first book, but the book is written in journal entries, so Emily is coming back, and as she's studying the fairies and stuff, she is writing in a journal, so everything is journal entries. So this would definitely count, and just a series I highly love, so I would always recommend that. Next, we have published in 2025. I have a couple options, which in the recs, I will likely could count those as well, but this is what I would like to count as Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales because I want to get to it this year. I've already talked about how I'm not sure. I just don't want it to end. So that's what I'm hopefully going to use for that square to just get me to read it. But I know Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V. Schwab is coming out. This is like a vampire book that I think spans multiple women across different times, and they're all interconnected. We also have Hemlock and Silver by T. Kim Fisher coming out. This I think is a retelling, but it's like a darker story, and I don't know much about it, but I just pick up every T. Kim Fisher that I have that comes out. And then we have Catabasis, I think is how you pronounce it, by R.F. Kuang, which is about people who go into the depths of hell, and it's like 2 characters, and I think it's like Labyrinth kind of. I don't know. I loved Babel by R.F. Kuang, so I'm excited to get to Catabasis, and that will count for published in 2025 because that's coming out, I want to say, in like August or something. So for author of color, it's just reading a square by an author of color, and the ones I have many I could choose from, but I was thinking of putting Catabasis on there because I like R.F. Kuang and I want to get to that one. But I also have The Killing Moon by N.K. Jemisin, which is a duology that I really want to get to this year. It was part of the series I want to start this year. This is following someone who is like the keeper of dreams, and he goes around and helps take dreams from people or give dreams to people, and he starts to realize things are not as they seem. And I really want to get into N.K. Jemisin, so that's why I put it on this list. So I'm hopefully going to use this for that square. I have a list of ones I could tell you, but I have a lot of options. There's so much great fantasy, horror, and sci-fi books by authors of color out there, so this doesn't even like scratch the surface. But I have The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. If you're looking for like a good adventure story, this one's really fun. It's got a loose retelling of 1001 Nights Tales, but we're following a prince and then a like merchant who deals in like stolen goods, and we just are following them as they're going to do what the king wants them to do, and trouble happens, whatever. And then we have The Monsters We Defy by Leslie Penelope. This is like a heist story that has magic, where all the different people in the heist have different like magical abilities, and they're trying to steal a ring from someone, but that ring has more to it than meets the eye. It was very good. I really liked it. I think it's a fun heist story. And then we have Kaikeyi, which I mentioned previously, by Vaishnavi Patel. still would highly recommend this one. If you like a mythology book, you're looking for that. We also have Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which I have recommended before. And then because I don't get to talk about horror enough in this yet, I have House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson, which is about vampires, and it's got like a sapphic undertones as well. And we have a woman who's becoming a blood maiden to this vampire house where she is agreeing to get her blood taken so that in years later she can have her own money and house, and like she serves like, I think it was like 10 years or something, and then she gets out. And it's very good. It gets very creepy. And then we have Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas, which is arguably not really a horror, more of a historical romance with a sprinkle of horror, but we have vampires in this, and we're following a woman and a man who, when they were children, were in love with each other, but he believes that she was dead one time, so he flees because he doesn't want to get in trouble by the family as he is like under her station. She thinks that he left her, and they are meeting back up when war starts, and they are going off to war together, and things happen, romance happens, vampires happen. It's a very good time. I would highly recommend, especially if you are maybe trying to get into horror as well. I think it would be a good place to start. The next we have is small press or indie pub, so it has to be by a small press. It's not the big five, or self-publish. So the one that I'm gonna try to read is Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons by Quimby Olson. I've been meaning to pick this up for a really long time. It's a cozy fantasy, historical-ish, where she finds a dragon egg and she decides to take care of it and hatch it, and she's like kind of a spinster, and so her family really looks down on her, and I believe she also finds love, and I just think I'm gonna really like this, but I keep putting it off, and so I need to get to it. It's a cozy fantasy. But this one is a indie pubbed. Actually, these two are indie pubbed, and that is The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan, which I talked about. This would work for that space. And then I recently read Strange Beasts by Susan J. Morris. If you like a fantasy mystery story, we're following Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes, his daughter, and Van Helsing's daughter. And they have to go and they solve like magical cases where they fight monsters and like help with that. But then we also have a mystery of these girls in Paris being murdered, and so they're going to figure out what's going on with that. And I liked it. It was my favorite, but if you're looking for a self-pub book and you like a fantasy mystery, I think that this could be up your alley. The next square is Biopunk, and this is focusing on biotechnology and or its consequences. So I think this one will work for it. It's a horror. It's called Leech by Huron Inez, and I'm going to use this for this square. It has to do with like mind sharing, so we have like a hive mind, and we're also going about as people are being killed by a seeming like parasite, and so I'm really interested in this. I heard it's got like really good body horror, which I'm a little nervous for, but I've heard good things, and I heard it's kind of weird. I'm hoping I will really like this. And then for you, I have The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Marina Garcia. This has got mixed reviews, but I did really like it. I gave it 4 stars. It's following Dr. Moreau's daughter, who is living on an island where her dad experiments and tries to make animals into humans, and one day people are coming to the island and their secrets are going to be revealed. So I would recommend this because it definitely deals with, I think, biotechnology, but there are other options out there if you want to visit the subreddit, because this one I didn't have like a ton of books that I thought met that criteria. And then the next space is Elves and Dwarves, and I honestly could not come up with an answer for this one. I feel like Fae is easy to come up with, but Elves and Dwarves, I'm not sure. So if you have recommendations, leave them below because this one really stumped me. So the next word is LGBTQIA plus protagonist, so the main character has to be a queer character, and I have for me to pick up Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall. This I've been meaning to read. Wow, that got really shiny. I've been meaning to read this for a while. It's set in 1814. It's a love story between a witch and a young lady, but also it's told in the perspective of a fairy. So the fairy is like seeing things that go on and telling the story. I think it's gonna be really fun. I already like the character voice of the fairy and how like nonchalant the fairy is, so I'm excited. And the mischief that's gonna happen. It's a like sapphic romance, I believe, but I'm excited to get to that, and I've heard good things about it. And then the other option I have is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This I think is also sapphic, and it's a vampire story like I've said before, so that will also work for the square. And then for recommendations, I don't know why I went with all like romance, because I have definitely books that are just like the characters are just protagonists. It like doesn't have to do with romance, but the ones that I decided on are all romance. So I also have This How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amar. I'll Motar. And then this is a romance I enjoy, but I don't talk about it enough, and that is Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. This is about an angel who has to help balance the scales between good and bad, and they come down and they meet a woman who's taking care of her young daughter, and she's like overly good, but her daughter, well, it's her niece, is overly bad, and they're trying to balance the scales because it's getting like out of control. And it's a romance between them and the aunt, and then also just like a found family element as well. And it was really, really good and really fun. I really liked the humor in it as well. It's very like gender fluid because the angel just kind of takes on whatever gender they feel like at the time. So I thought that was really fun as well. So then I also have Even Though I Knew the End by Seal Polk. I really liked The Midnight Bargain by them, but I also really enjoyed this. This is a novella, so it's really short compared to The Midnight Bargain. And we're following like a detective, and they sold their soul to like to save their brother, and they have to do these like jobs to get their soul back essentially, and they have one last job and it starts to go horribly wrong. There's like a romance between her and her partner and just the things that they go through throughout this time of solving this mystery, and then there's also this mystery, and it was really good. It had like a speculative element, but it also felt very historical in a sense, and also kind of like steampunky to me. It's been a while since I read that, so I could be wrong, but I remember it feeling steampunky. The next one is 5 short stories. I don't really read short stories, so this one was a little difficult, but I actually recently picked up The Jackalope Wives and Other Stories by Tiki Fisher, and I feel like if anyone could get me to like Tiki Fisher, or like short stories, it is Tiki Fisher. So this is what I have. It's got just multiple short stories that she's written, and I will be getting to it, but I don't really have any recommendations for you. The next one I have is Stranger in a Strange Land. So they are going to a new land, or they are a minority. And so for this, I have The Pomegranate Gate by Ariel Kaplan. This is during the Spanish Inquisition. It's a historical fantasy, and we have 2 characters that are fleeing because of being persecuted as being Jewish. And I believe one of them enters a new realm where they are experiencing a whole new side of the world and a place they never knew existed, and then another person who's trying to help find them. And so I think it's going to have multiple types of like Stranger in a Strange Land because of the new realm, but also because they are fleeing their homeland and going to new lands. It would also work for this square. My recommendation is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. Now, if you like this one but don't love it, I seriously recommend continuing on, because I feel like the second and third books, they get so much better. And not that the first one was bad, I just think if you're not overly in love with it, try giving the second book a try. I know sometimes it's hard if you don't love the first one to continue on, but I think this is like one of the series that I would say try. But in this, we're following Nari as she is taken from ancient Cairo, and she is thrust into this city of Daevabad, which is in a whole nother realm adjacent to Cairo, where there are people called Jinn and there's magic and things like that. And so she's trying to just like figure out why she's here, because she had accidentally summoned a Jinn and then she's taken to this realm. And so it's about her adjusting to life there, and then also like the politics of what's going on and this like underlying tension because different people have different things they want out of the city. So it was very good. I would highly recommend. The next square is Recycle a Bingo Square. So I went back and looked at different squares for this because it's from any of the previous years. You can just take a square that you like. So there was a romantasy square, and I've been trying to get more into romantasy, and I actually started reading this month, so this is what I think I'm gonna count for it. But I have Serpent in the Wings of Night. As I said, it's a vampire story. I'm really enjoying it, and so I am excited to dive more into the romantasy genre, but I thought I'd switch it out for this because I'm already reading it and it can count. But you can, you know, use whatever square you want. Also, I gotta say, it has to not repeat from what's already on the bingo square. So the next square is Cozy Sci-Fi Fantasy, and it says it can be anything you kind of define as cozy, but it wants you to have something that is relatable characters, low stakes, minimal conflict, and or a happy ending. So I have this, which is a new like indie pubbed book that is House of Frank by Kay Sinclair. My sister-in-law finally read it and gave it to me to read, and it just says it's a warm and hopeful story of a lonely witch consumed by grief who discovers a whimsical cast of characters in a magical arboretum. Sign me up. It looks really cute just from like the cover itself. So this is what I think I'm going to use for that square, but I could also use Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons. I get very tongue-tied with this one, but I could use this one as well, but I might use it for the other square, the self-pub square, so just whatever I decide at the time, because this would also count for that other square. But those are going to be my recommendations for this square. There's tons of cozy fantasy out there. You could also read Legends and Lattes. But if you're looking for a recommendation that is not Legends and Lattes, I recently read The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong, and it was really cute. It's about a teller who travels and tells people like small fortunes, and one day she meets up with these two guys who are looking for one of the guy's lost daughters, and she decides to help them. And it's a found family type story. It's a slow kind of story where you just get to know the characters and they come together and they get to realize some of their things that they thought about themselves aren't true. It was very sweet. I really liked it and I would recommend it. The next one is called Generic Title, and it's that it contains one or more of the following words, and I'm just going to read the list: blood, bone, broken, court, dark, shadow, song, sword, or throne. So for the pick for that, I want to read The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. By the way, this would also work for the LGBTQIA plus protagonist, but this is following a woman who I think is a princess and then a like thief or something, and they are going to come together and take down the empire. I read The Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri and really loved it, so then I wanted to pick up this because this is her most like beloved series, so I think I have high hopes for this one as well. But some options I have on my shelf is again A Dowry of Blood, so that works for the blood. We also have The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. Told you earlier about the third one, so this is the first one to that series. That will work because it says bone. We also have Blood over Brighthaven, which I've talked about previously, but honestly there's so many out there. It's one that a generic title, I feel like it's going to be easy to fill those spaces. Oh, the other one I could use if I don't get to the Jasmine Throne is Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil, but I can't double up on prompts, so if I use it on other ones, I can't use it here. So it's just about, you know, where I want to fit things. Then we're almost to the end. So the second to last square is not a book, so it has to be do something like watch a TV show or play a game or something that is fantastical but is not reading a book. And for that, my husband and I have been watching The Witcher and loving it. We're currently on season 3. We started it within this month, so we're still finishing it, and so I think I'm gonna count that. But I also have been playing Coral Island like crazy, and I love Coral Island, and it's got, well, I don't want to spoil it, but I feel like it's not a spoiler, but it's got a magical element, we'll say that. So I have been playing that, and that would count for it as well. But I feel like this one's not really hard for me to hit because I like to do those kind of things. The last square is Pirates, and I have no idea what to read. I was thinking I put The Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, ? Because I've heard you can start there, but I've heard you maybe want to start with Assassin's Apprentice, which I have less interest in, but I know that Robin Hobb is such a beloved author, and my husband read that series and he liked it, but he's not sure if I would love it. But The Live Ship Traders deals with like pirates, so tell me if you think I can start there, because I think it might be a better place for me to start to get me into the world. That one, I don't know anything about it, except for I think it has to do with ships, magic ships, and it sounds fun. Except for it also sounds high fantasy, so I don't know. I'm a little intimidated. But my recommendations for you are The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This same author as A City Brass, and I love this one. It's so much fun. It's definitely a pirate story. It's kind of older characters who have to go on one last mission across the seas to save a woman who has been taken, and they encounter a lot of things along the way, a lot of magical creatures, and it's a seafaring story. It's pirates, definitely pirates. It's so much fun. Highly recommend. And also highly recommend the audiobook. The narration for that, they did such a good job with it. And then finally, I have The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels by India Holton. This I know would work for hard mode because that's the only hard mode one I knew, which is not seafaring pirates. This one, they're sky pirates. Their houses go up into the sky and they travel that way, and it's a romantasy where we're following like a woman who another pirate comes and he says he's gonna kidnap her and take her away, and she doesn't let him and she tries to run away, but then he's trying to get her, and then other people are after them, and it's a romance between them. It's very fun. The banter between characters is fun. It's definitely like a vibes only story. If you're going in for immaculate world building, it's gonna be confusing. There's just like a lot of weird stuff that happens. The houses fly, we don't know how, they just do. But I think it's just one of those that if you don't take seriously and you just get swept away in with it, it's really fun, and I really enjoyed it. They're all my recommendations. They're all the things that I hope to read. I hope this isn't too long of a video, but I have a feeling it was a bit longer. But I'm very excited to be participating. If you're participating, let me know down below. And also, please share any of your recs for spaces down below, because I think that would be really fun. I guess let's just do a sword emoji, like any kind of fantastical emoji. Sword, whatever. That's all that's coming to mind. Wings for like fairies or something down below. Anything fantastical if you made it to the end. I would love to see it. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.